This community police officer visit was arranged for and funded through the efforts of me, acting in my personal individual capacity as a resident owner and not as my capacity as a current board member of the Willoughby Board of Directors. Although all owners and residents are welcome, capacity, this event is neither sponsored or funded by the Board of Directors, the Willoughby, the building manager, or the management company. The issues raised and discussed in the session are not meant to reflect or represent the position of the Willoughby Board, the building manager, or the management company on such issues. Okay, first of all. Okay, now the second thing. With the permission and consent of Officer Stroman, this event is being audio and video recorded so that it may be used for future educational and informational purposes. The video camera will be directed on the dais, technically the table, whatever. However, the audio recorder will pick up sounds throughout the event room, including questions from the audience, answers from Officer Stroman, and any dialogue that may occur between the audience members and Officer Stroman. Please keep these facts, terms, and conditions in mind when deciding whether you wish to speak out loud during the session. All clear? Yeah. Okay. This. Oh. Okay. 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 Did anybody not hear the disclaimers? No, we heard it. Okay. I can post them. Okay. So, it is my pleasure to introduce to you Officer Dana Stroman, who's the Montgomery County Community Police Officer for this district. And we have no restrictions on what you can ask because this is my personal event. So you can feel free to ask whatever you'd like, but again, the building is not being, is not being represented here. This is just the residents and the owners and Officer Stroman. Does anybody?
We have to forget about it.
Okie dokie.
Okay.
Okay. Officer Stroman. One other thing. The fire department gave me a bunch of File for Life, which you should take one and put it on your refrigerator. If in an emergency, they're trained to look for these on your refrigerator if they come into your apartment and you're unconscious. And so I'm going to leave them over there with the other information. Okay? Sorry. Now,
Well, good evening.
Good evening.
All right, so I am Officer Dana Stroman with Montgomery County Police Department, and I am the Community Service Officer that handles the 2nd District Station. So I'll kind of give you some basic preliminary information initially. Basically, the 2nd District, we work under the leadership of Commander Paul LaCory. And so we have a little over 240 officers that work out of that station to keep it up and running 365 days a year, 24 hours a day. So we are located, if you have not seen our new station, we are now located at 4823 Rugby Avenue in downtown Bethesda, right off of like Old Georgetown and Battery Lane in that area. And so to put things in perspective for you, the 2nd District, it covers kind of generally, if I would say on the north end, we go up to Montrose Road, where JCC, the Supergiant is, things like that. On the south end, we go down here to the DC line, Friendship Heights, so I'm sure you're familiar with that. On the east side, we go over to Silver Springs, 16th Street. On the west side, we go over to Falls Road. So that's a large area that we cover. And so we have officers out there every day, always, responding to calls for service and addressing any concerns that come up. Here in the 2nd District, we do have one of the lowest crime rates in the county. We really take pride in that, and we would like for it to stay that way. So we work very hard as a team to address any issues that come up. And so I will tell you right now, usually kind of the peak seasons for crime here in our district is usually during the holiday season. Usually, I always say Halloween, kind of October 31st is our kickoff day. And so right after that, crime goes up. It usually stays up until about the middle or end of January. And so then we usually kind of go through a slow period. And then the first sign of sunshine, spring may be in the air, then all of a sudden, well, crime tends to tick back up a little bit. And then we tend to see things kind of stabilize during the warmer months because people are out more. You know what, daylight savings, daylight longer, so we're out to be able to see and be out and about enjoying the weather. So people tend to be out more. So which makes us more accessible and potential victims. But I know there are lots of questions here tonight, but I just wanted to kind of go over some of the general things, and then I will touch on, I'm sure, the reason why we're here today. But right now we are experiencing theft from vehicles, and theft from vehicles. So basically, you park your car, you leave your valuables in there, somebody comes along, and they steal your valuables. And in most cases, we're finding right now that people are so nice because they leave the doors unlocked too. So that really makes it helpful for the criminals. So we really do ask that you please lock your doors on your vehicles, remove any valuables. If you have to leave them in your vehicle, put them in your trunk. Make them where they're not visible. You may say, oh, this is just a bag, doesn't have much in there or anything. But you know what? They're not looking to get rich off of one hit. They are just, but you know what? Going through your vehicle, find out, and you may not realize you may have left something else in there that may be of value or maybe put you at risk for some type of identity theft or something like that. So keep those things in mind, locking your doors and removing all of your valuables. Residential burglaries tend to occur. We've had some recently where, the residential burglaries, in our district, we tend to get quite a few property crimes, as opposed to some of the other surrounding districts where we may see more persons crime. So basically what they're doing is they want their property. They say you have nice things here, so they want it. And they go and they take your property. So make sure you lock even your doors to your residence, very important. And being aware of your surroundings when you're out and about. When you're coming and going from your residence, look around, see what's going on. If something looks suspicious, call the police. Let us know. I can't tell you how many things we find out through word of mouth or on listservs. Call us while it's occurring, or tell us as soon as possible. You make that call. Call us. It's very important that you don't feel like you're bothering the police. That's what we're there for. Let us know and report what's going on, even if a crime has not occurred. I can't tell you how many great arrests we've recently made from someone just calling going, I'm really not sure, but this didn't look right, so I'm calling the police. Call us, let us determine, let us come out and find out what's going on. Yes, ma'am.
Is that a phone call you would make through 911, or is there a different kind of phone number we should use?
Okay, so the question was, should you use 911 or the non-emergency number? That's a great question, but you know what, it just depends. If you feel like it's something that is worthy of a 911 response, where we need to come lights and siren and someone is in jeopardy of being hurt or harmed or even yourself, then I would say make it a 911. But if it's a person crime and it has already occurred or something suspicious, I would say maybe consider using the non-emergency number, which is the 301-279-8000. I do have brochures over here on the table that have that number as well. But again, that number is 301-279-8000. The non-emergency number. Also, one of the things we do use is nextdoor.com. We post things on there to let you know when we're having police events. We post on there when there's crime patterns and trends. Today there was a posting about we had a stolen vehicle in the not too far actually from here, and we have a description of some suspects and a vehicle. So it's a great way of finding out what's going on for your particular community. But still, you can go to our website as well and look under the 2nd District under crime summaries and still get that information, which is updated on a weekly basis as well. So just being informed about what's going on. We're seeing some of the thefts from pickpockets or just identity theft where people are using other people's credit cards and things of that nature. We recently saw that some occurred down in this area on elevators, especially in medical buildings. Elevators, if all of a sudden you say, oh, there's a commotion going on in the elevator, and you know what I want you to do is grab your purse or grab your wallet before you help anyone. Because a lot of times they're working in groups, and as you're trying to help and assist, somebody else is bumping into the back of you to take your wallet or remove your credit card or ID out of your purse. You may not even realize. They may not take the whole wallet. They may just take a credit card. So remember, only carry with you what you need. Do you really need 20 credit cards for the day? If you do, I want to hang out with you, okay? So, yes, is your question?
It's related to the beginning, what you said, how big the area is that you cover. In terms of population density, I mean, Friendship Heights Village is pretty dense. I'm curious, how does that compare with the other areas in what you compare with? I guess you just want to change the other districts.
I'm sorry.
How, in comparison to others, how much in terms of population do you serve? Do you happen to have that?
I don't know. I don't know that statistic, but I will tell you that we more so look at calls for service and the types of crimes that are occurring, as opposed to just the mere numbers of how dense of a population it is. But one of the things I will say in the 2nd District, we do have it like in our downtown Bethesda area, this is what we refer to as our Central Business District. We have a Central Business District team. So it provides a higher police presence for kind of commercial and residential mixed use areas, so that and because it's in a kind of a condensed area, it can be challenging to get around in our police cruisers. So in the warmer months, sometimes they may ride on bicycles so that they can get around in a timely manner as well. But I will tell you that, down here we have officers assigned to this area. When they're not running calls for service, they are to patrol and drive through the area on a regular basis during their shift. Yes, sir.
What is the role of the station that's right within 2 minutes walk of where we are right now, on North Park, with relationship to the 2nd District? What is that station?
It's a community resource.
Right. It's just a community resource office that was made available to some of the Montgomery County police officers that work out of the 2nd District. It is not a police station. It is not considered a substation. We went away from that several years ago, but it is a nice amenity for officers if they're down here, and they need to use the restroom or they need to write a report. There are usually some snacks and things like that in there for the officers, so some of them will utilize it in that way.
So it's not for us to go run over there
No. If you need the police, call us. And call us from where I am. And just because you are close to the DC line, remember, if you're calling from your cell phone, making sure that you get Montgomery County 911 or non-emergency number versus DC. And that depends on your cell phone carrier. But rest assured, if you do get that, they are aware of it, so they will transfer you very quickly over to the appropriate agency. Yes?
How will you know which 911 you've gotten?
Because when they answer the phone, they say Montgomery County Police, do you need fire, police, or ambulance? DC will say DC. So just listen And so a lot of times though, when we're panicking or under a lot of stress, we may miss that. But once you start talking and sharing information, the dispatchers are trained to recognize that as well. And so I know, well, we've talked about some kind of overall general things, but I know that some of you all are interested about the case that occurred recently.
Yeah.
So, I will tell you, there's very limited information I can share. It is an open, active police investigation, which means I can't talk about it because I don't want to mess up their case or share information that I'm not supposed to and I get in trouble for. So, I will tell you, I mean, some of the things are the basic things that came out in the press release. There was an incident where someone was at a local establishment. Someone purchased a drink for them. They are alleging that there was some type of drug put in their drink, and then a rape occurred. That person has been charged. Tomorrow, the plan from the state's attorney's office as of today is to indict him tomorrow. He will not be released. So, for right now, I don't have any control. The police department doesn't have control over how long he stays in jail. We did our part. We're doing the investigation. We're doing the arrest, working with the state's attorney's office. But as of right now, that person is in jail, and the plan is he will be there at least for a longer period. I don't know how long, though. Yes?
Does this person have a prior conviction?
Yes.
He was, I mean, in the press release it does say that he was a registered sex offender. So, yes. So he had some affiliation with the criminal justice system, yes.
How will we find out when and if he is released?
Well, you know, I will check with the detective that is handling the case, the unit that is handling it, but I'm sure, you know, there's press release that's coming out, information, there are people working with the state's attorney's office, and I will definitely let the detective in that unit know that as a community you all are concerned and would like to be privy to that information when the person is being released. But I will tell you, I just don't want people to get so focused on one individual. There could be criminals anywhere.
Yeah.
There could be sex offenders anywhere. And so, knowledge is power, but I want you to keep it in perspective, you know. So, if someone is, recognize what it is, and take the necessary precautions for your own safety. You know, I think we've all heard, you know what, we've been given safety tips when we go out. Sometimes it's good to get a reminder. Because sometimes, you know what, this is a great area to live and work and raise families and everything and go out and about. There's some great restaurants and great places and things to do in the area. And so oftentimes we feel very safe. And so we let our guards down. And so it's just to keep in mind that even though this is a great area, crime happens everywhere. And we want to just remember some of our safety tips we've all probably heard before if you go out somewhere. And if someone buys you a drink, you keep it in front of you. Don't let it go out of your view. If it does, throw it away. Throw it away. I mean, don't take that chance. And no fault to any victim that has. They were very good at what they do. And so, it could only take a second. Just like I tell people about pickpockets. Always tell people, be careful, you know, keep your belongings on you. But we see people get pickpocketed all the time. So, but if we work together to recognize this, and if you see something that's occurring, you know, bring it to someone's attention. Yes?
Is it within the Maryland law allowed for the building, if the building knows that there is a registered sex offender living here, should we have been notified of that fact? Is that allowed under the law?
Well, you can find out, you can search under the Maryland Sex Offender Registry and find out where all of sex offenders are. So you can, if you want to know that information, you can go on the computer and find out.
And then what do you do with that information?
I mean, that's your information, that's knowledge for you to have. And so you would be aware of who's living, if there is a sex offender in your area. So if you see them somewhere where you think, okay, maybe they're not allowed to be around children or something like that, then you may want to notify someone. But sex offenders, they still have a right to live somewhere. And so we can't say you can't live in a public place.
Right, but a condo is different from a house. And their children and young people and all ages exposed to that danger. So
Yeah, but there are children in houses, there are children in apartments, there are children in condos, there are children everywhere. And so, but they still have the right to live in the community. But you do have access to that information that they are registered sex offenders.
Betty, I see your hand first.
Yes.
Today I spoke with Richard. And he
Richard
showed
Springer
me-
is the general manager.
Okay.
And he showed me the website where I could see this information. But on the flyer we got, there was a link that we were supposed to go to. I went to that when I first got that paper. And you're supposed to put in your address. And I did that. And what came up was, there are no sex offenders in your area.
Well, that's not
So there's something wrong with the one website. And so Richard showed me today that not only are sex offenders, but there are several in this area. There must have been probably about 10 that he showed me. But on the one website that we were directed to, it says there are no sex offenders in this area. Now, what I'm concerned about is, I understand that they have a right to live wherever, but we have a right to know who they are, and I think if they're living in our building, we should have a picture of them. So when I get on the elevator, I want to know who I'm riding on that elevator with. I live alone. I get off at my floor. I don't know who's following behind me. And I think we have a right to have the pictures posted of people in the area who are sex offenders so that we have a safety method of protecting ourselves.
Excuse me, 1 second. The people who are chatting amongst themselves, it is really, really disruptive, so if you could please refrain from doing that. It would be really helpful. I know if you're just thinking
I didn't get that.
if you're talking amongst yourselves, even whispering,
Oh.
it's really disruptive up here because it doesn't help us hear the questions. So we heard you, Betty, but I also heard a lot of chatter. So if people could just please refrain from talking amongst their neighbors.
Okay, I had one more point.
I have a suggestion. Pass one of the mics up here.
Yeah, I haven't, but it doesn't make a difference. People really cannot talk amongst
Yeah, no,
themselves.
that's not the issue. It's more can.
So you can hear the question? Yeah.
I had one other point, and I'm sorry I was late. I had the wrong time written down on my calendar. So I don't know if you've covered this, but in the information that had been sent around, it said that there had been an increase in crimes in the area and that we should be vigilant. If there's been increase in crimes in the area, what I want to know is, have the police stepped up their surveillance of this area? I don't see any police cars around here when I'm walking outside at night. The only place I see police cars is up next to the Tiffany's. You know, protecting the stores up there. But down here in the dark area, where there are no lights, we're by ourselves, and this is an area where there are a lot of senior citizens. I don't see patrol cars.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Let me just address, there are a couple of things I need to address in your question there. First, The officer you see up by Tiffany's, they are hired by them to watch that. Okay, so that is why they are there. So that is their responsibility. They're working a secondary employer, part-time, outside of their police department.
Even though they're in a police car.
Even though they're in the police car, they are hired by them to be there. So they're not, they stay right there in that area to secure them. So we're going to eliminate them because that does not take away from our patrol officers that are on duty working for the police department. And in the police department, we have officers that are assigned to areas. Down here, we have, what we have is our district is broken down into beats. And so basically, geographic areas. And we assign an officer, a patrol officer to each area. And when they're not running calls for service, they're to drive through those areas. Okay? And so I know officers are in the area, and I'm not sure if you were here for when I brought up earlier, we did have a stolen car here in the area. We had some theft from vehicles in the area, and that's the increase in crime. But when I say an increase in crime in this area, it can be for the past week, comparing it to, because we look at things from week to week, because we want to stay on top of it. We don't want to wait for a whole month of a trend to go on. We want to look at what's going on immediately. And I know even today, yesterday, when we had the incident that there were numerous police cars in this area. Now, all of them may not be marked police cars. We do have unmarked police cars. We even have what we call our community, our decentralized community action team. They are in uniform, in marked police cars, and when we have a crime pattern or trend or an issue in a community, we can detail them to that area as well to provide a higher police presence. So we have, I know alerts went out today internally within our police department. An alert went out on next door to the residents in this area saying, be aware of what's going on. We're looking for subjects, and these are the things that are going on. So we are monitoring this. We are increasing our police presence and the response for this area. And so I don't know why you haven't seen them, but it just may be the times, or may have missed them, or maybe an unmarked police car in the area. But I know that we do have our officers in the area. And I always say, if you see something going on, call us. And that's the best way to get us into your community. If something's going on, or you see something suspicious, call us. And that way, we're responding right there. And if you don't want to be seen, you do not have to be seen. You can say, I don't want to be seen. You don't have to come to my door. You know what? Or if I want to know what's going on, call me. Let me know what's going on. Or you know what? I'm just sharing information. No need to follow up with me at all. So those are several options, but if you see something going on, the best way to get us here is calling us, but in between calls for service, then some days are busier than others, and so they may not have as much free patrolling time because they're running calls for service.
Are there anywhere in the area, because I've never noticed that, are there any alarm boxes?
I'm sorry, I don't know what alarm boxes are.
A little box on a pole where we see something, we're concerned, there's something going on, pull the lever, we get an alarm.
Not that I'm aware of here. Most of the time, any type of panic buttons or security buttons, anything like that, they are usually on private property in which a management company or a community monitors, and they usually go to a security team who then notifies the police, because what happens is you set up these types of alert systems, and kids come by and go, doop, doop, all day long, and then we keep running it, and then after the 100th time we go, that's just kids playing on the box again. So We don't have any system where it goes directly to police. If you have an alert panic button somewhere, it would go to your security team or your front desk staff, and they would call the police. And I'm not sure, but that's not something the police department installs. That would be from a community. I'm not sure who was next, but Valonia?
This is information that helped me. I bought ID insurance protection last year, and I get alerts every month, and actually the attacker was reported last year in the report. If you buy ID protection, you get reports. Yeah, you get reports every time there's an attack.
So for those of you who may not have heard, she said that she bought ID protection monitoring. So anytime there's an attack or something like that, she receives an email notification of the attack. And so that way you're kind of kept in the loop, you're aware of what's going on to protect your identity. Yes?
I think that depends on who you buy it from, because I have protection like that too, and I don't get any information. So it depends on who you're from.
Right, so the statement was, it depends on who you purchase it through. So maybe as a community, if you have purchased something that has been successful, maybe that's something you can share with maybe a board or with the resident, and that information the vendor can be shared with the residents so that others who may be interested can participate as well. Yes, in the back.
By the way, Don is now the keeper of the microphone, so if you don't feel that your voice is being heard, just, you know, he's the one in the plaid shirt over at the corner, and he will come to you and give you a microphone, okay?
Okay, all the way in the back.
You mentioned that your police department, you mentioned that your office or your department receives or gets alerts about high crime activity. You know, is there a possibility that maybe communities around the area can also get that alert? Is that something that your department can do?
No, the alerts, we put out the alerts. So we do our next door.
I'm sorry, could you please repeat the questions, but we don't hear it.
Okay, her question was, can residents get alerts about increase in criminal activity? And so what I was stating was that we, the police department, we put out alerts. And so we're not getting this information from people. People will send us information about particular situations that they have observed rather than sometimes calling the police. But we will put out alerts on nextdoor.com, like today. They put out about the stolen vehicle and the description of the subject. So we will put those things out, and as I mentioned, if you go to our website, we have the crime summaries. It will look at any crime patterns and trends for the past week. It is updated every Thursday now and give you the crime patterns for the previous week. It will not give you every call for service. It will just look at if there were several incidents. Like, I think one week we had, last week, I think they said we had 11 thefts from vehicles. That will be on our crime summary because we've seen it's a pattern. And then we try to put on there where these things are occurring. So if you live in those particular areas, you're aware of this, you should be, more watchful of what's going on.
Now, I used to put out the crime summaries, the neighborhood crime summaries on a listserv, but people didn't want for me to be doing that, so I stopped. But
they can go they can subscribe to Next Door Neighbor.
I know, that's perfect, yeah. But it's an app, so you have to have a cell phone in order to get the Nextdoor app.
But it's not an app. No, it's an email. It's me as an email.
Oh, okay, because I always thought it was an app.
No, I get an email.
Excellent.
There's a website.
Oh, fantastic.
You can do it with an app.
Right, and they just send you an email.
Can you give us her website?
Yes, I can.
Send that through the glass.
I don't need a mic, that's okay. I will give any information that she's providing tonight, I will give on the listserv, and if anybody is not on the listserv, they can email me. Everybody has my email or my phone number. You can just get in touch with me, and I'll give you all the information that Officer Stroman is providing, okay?
Are you able to set up glass? In other words, write an email and send it to all residents in one glass?
No, we do not have that communication system yet.
Okay.
And as far as I know, we're getting Building Link in the next 6 months, but I do not know what the building is going to use Building Link for, because there's a whole bunch of different features, but I don't know what the building is going to be using for, and which specific things they're going to be using it for, and so you'd have to ask Richard Springer that.
Thank you.
Yes.
I don't have a question, it's just a commentary. I've lived in this area since 1985. I have never once seen a marked police car in this vicinity. So if there are any police cars in this vicinity, they must all be unmarked.
Only the ticket.
The only police car I've ever seen in this general area is the one that is always parked at the entrance to the shopping area alongside Cartier's. Other than that, I've never seen a visible police activity in the area.
Wow. Okay, because I know I come to court, I attend meetings down here, and my car is parked right on Wisconsin. And so, and I'm there for at least an hour.
At Wisconsin?
Yes.
But how about down in our area where the people live?
But I'm right at Wisconsin and Willoughby.
All I know is I'm with her. I'm there 15 years. I've never seen a police car
And-
in our area where the condo is. Only
Now,
on Wisconsin Avenue.
Right. I mean, and I know we go over to the senior center, so we were there. We even did the drug take-back day there, so we participate in some of their events. So I'm not sure, but I will at least take your information back and say that they would like to see more of a police presence and patrols in the area. And one of the things, you know, what I do is I send out information to the officers who work in this particular area. I wish I could tell you that if I said to ask one of the patrol officers, you know what, can you go check in at the Willoughby every day, that they would.
Oh, we love it.
I know, I would too. So, but unfortunately, if a 911 call comes out, then you know what? They have to do that. Their primary responsibility is to respond to calls for service. And the amount of calls for service, like I said, the medical building where we at the pickpockets were right on Wisconsin Avenue, right by South Park. Our officers were there. We do follow-up work there. So I know we're here. I don't know about timings or just off, but or that they're on the main thoroughfares where we park because that's where we're getting called to, as opposed to, you know, pulling into the driveway of the Willoughby. But I will at least let the officers that are assigned to this area, I will send them a check on patrol for the Willoughby. All right?
Not the Willoughby specifically, but just up South Park Avenue, North Park Avenue, and
Well,
going around.
Well, we do because we do go to the senior center up there. So, but, you know, I just want to make sure that I ask at least so that people can see them. And if they're coming here, they may cut through those streets as well. But this brings them to the kind of edge.
Right.
So if we ask that, like I said, but their primary responsibility is to respond to calls for service. But we can at least ask.
Peter has had his hand up for a while.
Okay.
Yes, in the last week I've seen in the garage three police cars at one time with 4 or 5 officers among them. I've seen many times police park in front, come into the Willoughby. It's there.
And like I said, and it's not something I think anybody's being right or wrong. I think it just depends on when you're out and about, how often you're out and about, and I know that the officers, the patrol officers, they are really working hard. In addition to our decentralized community action team officers, they're out there in addition to our unmarked officers as well. We are aware when crime is going on, and we are providing a police presence in this area. But again, as time goes on, but we want to at least say, I will ask them to check on patrol in the area. In light of the recent activity, I think you will see an increase just because we are doing some investigations looking into addressing the theft from vehicles and things like that, then I think you will see an increase. All right? Yes.
I have a question about the relationship of police station cars and the checking for parking. You know, where they go around to see if you park for too long.
Enforcement.
Yeah. What are the relationship of the force?
That's Montgomery.
That's county. You know, you're allowed 2-hour parking, or you're in a meter and it runs out. The people who come and check the whether you're parked overtime compared to the police, what is their relationship?
That is parking enforcement.
Yeah.
And so they are a government agency. However, their job is strictly to enforce like parking meters or people there to check on things like that. Whereas, police officers are more so, if you call us and let us know that somebody's parked illegally, we can come out and issue a parking citation. Or we observe some type of violation, we do have the authority to respond and issue an appropriate citation. But most of the parking enforcement, things like that, do go through that agency, through parking enforcement.
They're two separate.
Yes, they're not, right, they're separate. You usually see them, there are little cars driving around, they'll get out and check the meters and things like that. Our officers are usually responding to calls for service unless they're in the area and they observe something. Yes?
I have two questions. They're related. Does a building have a responsibility to owners and tenants to notify them of undesirables in the building?
No.
Okay. And what is the culpability of the restaurant for serving intoxicated people or not being aware of somebody being assisted out of the building? Because the report in the paper indicated that this young woman was pushing this guy away. And I'm just wondering how Clyde's could ignore something like that.
I mean, I can't speak for Clyde's. I don't work for Clyde's.
No, I mean, do they have a responsibility to their patrons? I mean, a legal responsibility?
Right, I mean, I wasn't there, so I don't know what someone, I can't speak to say what someone saw.
Right.
But, I mean, the person, if someone commits a crime and someone reports it, then police respond. But I don't know that, I can't speak on behalf of Clyde's or what anyone in there observed because I don't know that information.
I mean, I've done jobs where legally you can't serve an intoxicated person or, I'm just wondering, you know, I understand absolutely, I believe in redemption and people should be allowed to live wherever. But I think one of the things that, yes, you can go onto the website and find registered sex offenders, but that's only class 3 offenders. What about class 2 and class 1 offenders?
Well, you can go on to the Maryland Judiciary search, and you can see anytime somebody's been charged with anything. There are other websites. If you're looking for sex offenders, you can go to that website, but there are other websites that are available to provide you with the public information.
Can you share some, not now, but can you share some of those so we can have that?
Sure.
Because, again, nobody is perfect, I'm certainly not, but, you know, just so we can be aware, if a building has no responsibility, it's up to us to pay attention to what's going on in our space.
Right.
Thank you.
That police, one second.
One second.
I want everybody, I understand that, but I want you to explain that people should not think that they can take the law into their own hands and have any sort of harassment to anybody in this building.
I agree. That I would say, no, what Heidi stated was that people should not take the law in their own hands. What we're asking for people to do is to notify police if you see something going on. To be our eyes and our ears. We're not asking you to do our job. We're not asking you to address any type of, you know, issues by harassing people or anything like that. This is a community. And everybody who wants to live here is here. They're living here. So why not try to make it as pleasant for everyone as possible?
Marcos had a question and then Nina.
Okay?
Second.
Hi, thanks for coming tonight, appreciate it. This perp that was recently arrested, he had a previous he was previously charged with sexually assaulting a minor. And here in the building, we saw him numerous times in the swimming pool with minors. And we weren't aware that he had this previous arrest. I was just wondering if you could, is there a way to work with the police and the building management to keep an eye on registered sex offenders to make sure there aren't in areas with minors?
Again, there is the website where you can search to see, and if you see someone that's in violation, you can call it in. We do have a unit that monitors the activity of registered sex offenders, but again, there are more of them than there are officers. So, but they do the best job that they can to monitor things, but we do rely on, again, community people to be our eyes and our ears to let us know if you see someone that is a registered sex offender and with kids, call us and let us know. I'm sorry?
Well, we didn't know at the time that he was a sex offender, yeah.
Okay, so after tonight, at least the people here will know. And hopefully Heidi will share with as many people that get in contact. There's been media releases about this for many years, that there's a registered sex offender list, and you can go on, it's public information, and find out this information. I mean, you know, we do tell people a lot of times about this registry. It's on our website as well, so I'm not sure.
So we call 911 if we see a sex offender in the pool with a minor?
Well, I don't know if you feel like you need 911, depending on, I guess, what's going on, or you would use the non-emergency number, the 301-279-8000.
And that was, how proactive can we be in a situation where a sex offender that we have looked up is with a minor in the swimming pool in public areas? Should we take an action to, how do we deal with that situation?
Call the police.
Nina was waiting.
I just want to ask, I don't know if it's true question or not. Has the police the authority to tell all the places where they offer drinks, you know, at night for young people and all that? I mean, it's full of it. Do they have the authority to let them know, don't let somebody who's really totally drunk or out or pushing someone, to call the police? This is the owner of those places. Have the police the authority to do that, to let them know that they shouldn't do that, or they will be fined if they do? Because this is a lot of these young crime, which is rapes and all that, happen in that direction. And I'm sure, you know, at least I think, you know, places like bars or whatever, that the owner should just, you know, push the people that are really over drunk, because crime can be committed that way.
Yes, so liquors control, and when they get their liquor license, they are provided this information.
Okay.
Okay. We, the police department, do not per se, take the lead on doing alcohol enforcement on owners and things like that. We can sometimes do operations on underage service or over service and things like that in partnership with liquor control. Because Liquor Control Board basically has the authority. They issue liquor licenses. I don't issue liquor
I
licenses.
understand that, but it does.
They tell them there that they are not to overserve or to serve money.
Yeah, or catch the people before.
And they have people that go out and check to make sure they're in compliance. And they work with the police department and go out and check. We may send in a minor to see if they are, or you know what, they will watch somebody that's really intoxicated walk out of a place, then that establishment can be cited. So there's a lot of enforcement that goes on for over-service.
Okay, you're next, and then you, 1 second.
So do you hold self-defense classes, and if you do, where can we find this information?
No, Montgomery County Police Department does not offer self-defense classes. But there are lots of different private...
Maybe once a year.
Yeah.
Right, there are different private companies. Due to liability, we do not. Who was next? I'm sorry.
This woman in the back, I can't see her face, next to Michael. Yeah, thanks.
I work for Court Service Supervision Agency, and there was a question. I retired, but I'm a consultant. The question was asked, what can you do about a sex offender? The best thing that you can do is, if they're around children, is to report it. Because there are some guidelines. And I would advise everyone in this room to go up and just read about a sex offender and what rights they have and what they don't have. But if you see them with children, you do have a right to call the police. And I just can't legally say what will happen, but trust me, something will happen.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Cecilia?
I have a question. I've never gone to the registry, the website. Are there pictures of the sex offenders?
Yes.
Okay, so you can see the picture and then find out the address and the apartment number as well?
Their address is listed on the sex offender registry.
Okay, thank you.
Well, can the offender be let know that people know about him?
Well, they know once they register on the sex offender registry, they know that people...
No, I understand that. But like a building like our building, can the management or whoever is responsible can let that owner or renter or whoever he is to know that people know about him and he should behave or whatever?
I don't think that's their responsibility.
No, I'm not, you know, I'm just asking.
Yeah, I don't think that that's their responsibility, but when they register on the sex offender registry, they are aware that this is a public information website and that everyone and anyone can have access to it.
So we should be able to find them.
Shireen, you had a question?
I have a delayed follow-up on the discussion we had about the state of the woman who was attacked and the fact that our cameras downstairs captured that, but yet our front desk staff did not do anything. Is there anything that you guys do in terms of training in the area for building staff in terms of, like, you're telling us to be aware and to be cognizant of surroundings, but it would be nice to know that the people downstairs who are the eyes and ears of the building have similar training or exposure. Is that something that you guys do or can do?
Yes, we can do trainings for the staff of the building on being aware, when to call the police, and things like that. Yes, that is definitely something that
Is
we
that
can
training
do.
free?
It is free.
No way. Well, that's
Your
my
tax
next
dollars
agenda
at
item.
work, see?
See, this is my next agenda item, and you guys have to help me get it on the agenda for the next board meeting.
Does everybody provide if the staff has had training here? Ever? What's that? If the staff here has had training ever?
The words no come to mind.
Right. I am unaware Well,
That's a priority. What's the question?
The question is, has staff of this building ever been trained?
I don't know.
Well, we can't answer that because there's no building representative here, so we're going to pass on that one. I'll find out, and I will get back to you all. Maharish has had his hand up for a while, and then you're next.
Yes, sir.
And then Saeed.
Good evening. I happen to have read those articles in Heidi's listserv pretty carefully, and there are 2 or 3 things which really bother me. By the way, I happen to know the floor because I go past there every day. I have a family condominium unit over there, and there were some strange things that have been happening at least for the last 2 or 3 years. I never thought it was anything of the caliber that it's turned out to be. The first thing which has been really confusing is that he pleaded guilty to, he assaulted 3 minors, then pleaded guilty to a lesser crime, and then the police put him on a parole service instead of any other prison sentence. And I've never understood that so far. Maybe you have some comments on that. Number 2, going past that corridor every evening, his door was always left open, about 6 inches, and there was like foam, you know, like you put in, you buy a radio or a television set, that foam cardboard at the bottom of the door. I did speak to the manager about that, and he said he wasn't aware. I made this courtesy staff aware of this at least 4 different occasions. Said put a report into management. Number 3, going past there many times, there was a smell of smoke, which we've had lots of discussion on our listserv about smoking, but much more important, I could smell marijuana there. I've never smoked it myself, but it's sort of easy to recognize. I brought that to their attention as well, and suggested that they pass this over to the management office.
What corridor?
The 12th floor.
Oh, I didn't know.
12 South.
If you see the website, it'll give you the exact unit number. I don't think I should disclose that.
No, it's 12 South. You know, everybody.
Yeah, I just said that, 12th floor. So, and, you know, I've actually seen this guy making approaches to people in this area and saying, oh, you wonderful so-and-so, what can I do for you this evening? You know, this really raised the hair on the back of my head when I finally saw the pictures on the website. And
Didn't you report it?
what is most scary is that, again, if he pleads guilty to something here, and that would allow him to do the same process for the 4th time. I'm just confused that he would just be allowed to get back right into the building. And when the manager put out a memorandum to all the owners in the building, there was no comment by the board of directors. I'm not criticizing them at all, but their names were not even copied on as CCs on this. What role should a board of directors take in condominiums such as this?
I'm just not going to answer that one.
No, I'm asking you.
I was going to say, a couple of things. Let me answer a couple of your questions.
And then could you...
As far as the board, I don't have any control over your board. I don't have anything to do with that. I work for Montgomery County Police Department. I don't control your board. If you have control of the board, I would say you trust them with the board.
You can.
And so, but kind of going back to the beginning of your questions about, you notice things going on there that were on for a while. I think it's important to report to management, but management is not law enforcement. If you see something going on that's odd, suspicious, remember when I said, don't wait for a crime to occur. Call us. Call the police. Could someone have let us know earlier on and called us? I don't know. But that would be helpful moving forward. If you see something going on that's odd, you're not sure what's going on, call the police. You can notify your management office. But I ask that you call the police and let us know. Let us determine if it's something that we can intervene in. Other thing, the police department, we are the law enforcement agency. We do not determine sentencing. We do not get involved in that. Unfortunately, from the aspect of determining the final outcome. We help the state's attorney prosecutes the case, and we provide them with information and evidence, but it is truly between the state's attorney, the defense attorney, and a judge or jury. So that is not something that we can control, unfortunately. And so, hopefully, going forward, if anyone sees any resident or anything like that going on with suspicious activity, to call the police and report it yourself. And that way, we will have knowledge of it. But thank you for sharing.
You first, and then Michael, and then Janet.
I just wanted to make a quick comment just on the staff training. I'm a trainer also. Just so I have an interest in seeing how these things are systematized. But one day soon after we learned about this incident, and it's, I was really quite shocked, like a lot of us were. I asked the staff, I think it was over a weekend.
Speak into the microphone.
Yeah, I spoke to one of the staff members in the South Lobby and asked, so, what do you think? And are you guys doing things differently? Or, I just asked for acknowledgement. He said, oh, I didn't hear anything about it. What are you talking about? And I said, well, I've been on vacation for 2 days or something. I'm like, that is not what I want to hear from someone, even if you've been on vacation. I would think there's some kind of an alert page, something that they've read immediately after coming in. And since we were all, the listserv was on fire. So I can't believe that was said. But, in a way, there's a lot of that. One time I came in, after we've been complaining on the listserv about marijuana, I was actually told when I called down, they're like, well, what does that smell like? I said, well, it smells pretty bad. You want to come to my apartment and smell it? So I think there is definitely a need for training of some kind.
So
it's just info to share with colleagues.
But is that something that you think that an officer should be called if there's a constant smell of marijuana? Is that even an issue in Maryland anymore?
Yes.
Well, it's still, marijuana use is still illegal here in Montgomery County. So, so you can call us.
But if it's in someone's home, aren't they allowed to smoke in their own home?
So it's a matter of how do we, we're not going to be knocking down people's doors or anything like that, getting in there. But at least sometimes we can't look at it from the perspective of an enforcement component all the time. But you know what? Having the police come out and kind of just mediate and talk to residents to resolve issues may help to address them, as opposed to you sharing it onto management or sharing it with your other neighbors and it not getting anywhere or it not getting addressed. So sometimes just having us come out to be kind of like that middle person to talk to people. Arrest and enforcement doesn't have to be our only option. And, we always say, let us come out, let us talk, find out what kind of resolution we can come up with. And again, you'll see that police car out front too, so if you call. All right,
Michael.
I'm here. I was checking the sex offenders registry the other day, and you could put your zip code, and then a bunch of pictures comes up with their locations. There is a person in the neighborhood that his crime was child pornography. What level of threat does he poses? Number one. And number two, is it the Montgomery County putting surveillance on these guys, or is FBI task force on, there is a name, who is monitoring? And what level of threat? I mean, would they have a tendency
Can you
to go
repeat his
from child
question?
pornography to actually posing,
Right.
sexual assault on minors?
I mean, so the question was, what threat does a person who's been convicted of child pornography pose? I don't know, because you can be a first-time offender and turn out to kill somebody and be a murderer. So anyone has the ability to be a criminal. I can't say because you've committed a certain type of crime that now you pose some greater threat. But again, I can't stress enough, the reason, I think one of the reasons why these registries are available is so that you have the knowledge, so that you're aware, so if you observe something along those lines, that you can say, maybe I need to call the police. Maybe I need to have somebody look into this more thoroughly. Also, in the Montgomery County Police Department, as I brought up earlier, one of our detective units, our special, they changed their name several times, but I think it's the Special Victims Investigation Division now, but there's a group of detectives that they monitor people that are on the sex offender registry. And so, but you can also call in and say, somebody who's on the sex offender registry, you know what, they were in the pool with kids, they were hanging out with kids, approaching kids, or you know what, acting suspicious and doing something, you know what, call the police, let us come out. Every time we come out does not mean that we're coming out to arrest someone. And sometimes it rectifies that situation just by having us come out, they knowing the police are aware that possibly you are on our radar screen now, somebody's called, somebody's watching, people aren't afraid to call the police. Will deter them from taking any further action. So, call us, let us know, but remember, people that have never committed crimes before sometimes go out and commit very heinous crimes. People who are serial pickpocketers, they stay at that level forever. You just don't know, and there's no magic answer to who's going to deviate and escalate and who's going to stay at that same level. So always err on the side of caution and call us and let us find out what we need to do or if there's anything we can do.
Hi, I'm Janet, and first of all, I want to say that I've lived in Montgomery County my whole life, and I think the police do a great job. I lived next door to, when I was young, police families, and it's a wonderful county to live in. First of all, we also have 311, which is a number of anything you want to know about Montgomery County. Any organization, any way you need to get through to something or somebody. If you're trying to figure that out, call 311. Number two, I think that many people would be quite surprised when you look at this registry for sex offenders, that you may see some names of people who are rather prominent in this community, who at some point in their life had been charged with some crimes. And, you know, so don't think that just because someone might be underemployed or their apartment smells a certain way or they smell a certain way or whatever flags you decide might be someone's flag, that's it. And number three, when I moved in this building in the early 90s, I was told very succinctly that we do not have security in this building. We have a courtesy staff. And that when I walked out my door of my apartment, I should treat my hallways like they are my street. And, you know, apparently that has not changed. I think that if that's what their job is courtesy staff, then some people might think they're courteous and some people might think they're not courteous. But they're not security. So I think that that's a role, like what Heidi, you said about bringing up about trainings or et cetera. You know, first they have to define, and we as residents need to understand, who are we really living with as far as the employees and our expectations. You know, what is reasonable and what is realistic. And as far as ever being afraid to call the police, they really are your best friend. And I'm legally blind, and I've seen lots of police cars around Friendship Heights. Maybe they're just getting coffee at Whole Foods. I don't know. But I've seen them in packs sometimes where maybe they needed some backup. And again, you know, I really am concerned about what goes on, especially when you're someone like myself that doesn't see very well. But I guess everything that you've said basically is, you know, if you see something, do something about it. You know, so what's somebody going to do? Call you stupid if it turns out to be nothing? You know, if you're worried about something's going on under your roof, I'd worry about your streets too. The whole, beginning from the time we walk out the door. But what happens just at the Willoughby isn't just happening at the Willoughby. It's happening everywhere, and our community is metro accessible, and I think we need to know our environment. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Again, yes, well stated. I think, you know, knowing what the employees' roles are here at the Willoughby is very important, but having these conversations is where all of this starts. And usually, unfortunately, it occurs after something happens. So let's be proactive, use this as an opportunity to move forward and to build these relationships and get better understandings and to get additional knowledge about things we may not have been aware of. So it's, you know, unfortunate it came on the back of an unfortunate incident, but we can use this as a positive to move forward, to work closer as a community, knowing we're going to be calling the police, being aware of our surroundings, and working together to keep yourself safe. Your safety is your responsibility, and we want to be there to help in any way that we can. But it first starts with each of us as an individual. So let's work together, look out for what's going on. If we see something, we're going to say something and we're going to call the police. If you don't remember that non-emergency number, if it's the difference between whether or not you call the police, I'd rather you call 911 than not call at all. If you forget that number or you don't have it, I'd rather you report it. You know, and keep us abreast of what's going on and what your concerns are, so that we can work in partnership with you in the community to address any issues that may come up. And I'm not sure how much time we have.
We have until 8:30. We have about another half hour. I don't know who has the microphone. Okay, we have another half hour if anybody wants to ask more questions. Officer Stroman is free to leave whenever she wants. But
I'll stay around until the questions are up.
We have another half hour. Do you want the microphone? I think it's another half hour.
It's a question for Heidi.
Yeah.
Are we able to get maybe a printout of the sex offender that Richard showed me today, and have it posted in the management office?
That I cannot say. Again, there's a lot of lawyers in this meeting, So maybe they could tell you better, but I think that that would be something you have to ask Richard about.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Sorry.
Yeah, I did speak up. You know, one thing that I've noticed is since I've lived here, and I've lived here quite a long time, I don't want to even say how long, but longer than I've wanted to. And for a lot of reasons, just my own kind of line of work. Anyway, one thing I've noticed over time is we have the most security cameras that we've ever had everywhere. And I would hate to think it's just to monitor, you know, who's throwing garbage in the wrong place. But that's sometimes that's what I feel like it's there for. What is the point of having 8 cameras and these security people or whatever, courtesy people are just sitting there? What are they doing with that information? So I mean, I'm not really posing it to you, but I'm just raising it as a community member. What is the point of all that?
If the police request that information, I believe that they will be provided that information.
Do they use it themselves, though?
I'm sorry?
For our security. Do they use it for our security?
You know, I don't know. I do know that if you throw a pizza box out, they go back and look at the video and see what it is to send you a fine. Pardon?
Are you exaggerating?
No, I'm not exaggerating.
That's the elevators. I mean, the elevators have these things installed.
But again, it's you know, again, I do not know, but I can ask Richard and send a response on the listserv. So again, I can't tell you exactly.
I mean, my concern is the security and not, obviously that's one of the things, but I feel like it's the only thing almost sometimes.
But you know, I wonder if, you know, it doesn't replace being more vigilant. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Just because you have a camera doesn't mean that, you know, who's ever watching the camera is watching you get attacked. You know what I mean? It's like if something happens, there's no one watching it to, you know, on a consistent basis to call the police. So
I mean, given what happened, frankly, this is what was on my mind. If they saw something going on between the 2 desks, they didn't see what happened.
Again, I have no idea
I know.
because
and you don't have to answer. I'm just saying.
And just remember that
paid for this stuff.
the cameras should be a part of your security system and not be your sole security system. And what I mean by that is that has to be just one component of it. Because even if we were to get a picture, a camera image tonight of Heidi, and Heidi didn't have her name on it, okay? And they tell me Heidi committed some crime. And they send it to my coworker. They don't know who Heidi is. They know they have a picture of Heidi. Maybe we would find out who Heidi is, but maybe we wouldn't. What if Heidi put on a baseball cap and pulled it down, so you really only got to see kind of below her nose too? All we would know is very limited information. And sometimes I think we put a lot of emphasis on cameras, and it may not provide all of that. It's a great component of a security strategy.
And in this case, it was a part of identifying the person. So it was kind of key.
It was, and it can be important in some cases, but don't solely rely on just security cameras.
And my only question is if they're there and we paid for these resources, and it's not cheap. I mean, I know over time they've spent a lot of energy installing all the elevators have them, and some hallways, especially where we throw garbage. So.
And one of the things, let me just kind of put a plug in for, one of the things we do offer that I can set up with the building here is we do security walkthroughs.
Fantastic.
And so we would look at what security features you have in place, and we can make recommendations on what we feel, make suggestions on what security enhancements should be made.
Well, somebody does walk our halls at night from our courtesy staff. I've seen them late at night walk through the halls. It makes me feel very good
All they're doing is delivering papers.
No, they lock their laundry rooms.
Yeah, they lock the laundry rooms.
Yeah, they lock the laundry rooms, but they're also walking through the whole.
They do that and they do that, they garage.
Right. So, I mean, they're out there, they're an extra set of eyes and ears, so if something is going on, they could potentially report these things. So, utilize them in the way that you can. But again, what works is for if everyone, and there are several different components to it, working together. Security camera, staff training on awareness, you know what, and then community residents being aware of what they can do and reporting things. So if everyone is doing their part, I think you see an increase in security and safety. So I think that really should be the takeaway from it, is we want to all work together with a variety of components.
Well, I know that they're doing more than locking that laundry door. Because one night, I heard my door slam.
Oh.
And I think, door closed it for you. What happened? Well, I realized I probably had left my door open. And someone closed my door for me. So there, and I'm all the way at the end. There would be no reason to walk all the way down there unless they were checking.
Right.
So they're doing their job that way. I just wish that the people at the front desk would have a picture of those that we should be concerned about. So that if I'm getting on the elevator and that person's getting on the elevator, he's watching the camera to make sure I'm safe getting upstairs. Because I don't know if this person is a problem. Up until last week, I didn't know we had a problem. So you're saying be vigilant. What are we going to be vigilant about if we don't know we have a problem?
But in general, overall, I think right now we're in the society we live in. I don't think we can say one person over another. I think in general, we should practice some safety strategies.
Yeah, but get in on the elevator, 11 o'clock at night. You're by yourself. What are you going to do? If someone and a man gets on the elevator, how am I supposed to be concerned about this? He's a neighbor, or he's on another floor. What do I know?
Right, but that could be any neighbor. And what I'm saying is, we can't just say because somebody has done something that they're going to do something else or attack you. So overall, practicing safety, regardless of who it is. If you feel uncomfortable, get off the elevator. Wait for another one.
I always caution people about letting people piggyback through the doors with you. There's been times, I mean, just because that's how I am, but there have been times I've been coming in the south entrance and I see somebody else coming in and I don't recognize them. I pull up my phone and pretend and turn away and pretend I'm talking till I can see that they're getting themselves into the building.
That's right.
You know, so it's the same thing. There's been times I came in on the north side and somebody got in the elevator with me and got off the floor and I totally didn't recognize this person. So I got with him and went around the corner just to see what unit he was going to. Not that I'm a nosy neighbor, but you know, he knocked on the door, opened it, it was fine, you know, but I don't know that.
Well,
So
I've walked through the north lobby and have had someone piggyback on, and I've stopped the person.
Yeah, exactly.
I said,
exactly.
I don't know you. You didn't stop at the front desk.
Exactly.
Why are you coming through this door?
Exactly.
He says, I'm visiting a friend upstairs. Well, I said, then go to the front desk and give them your name and let them know where you're going.
Exactly.
You're not allowed to come into this building without first being cleared.
Yep.
And so some people may not feel comfortable with that approach. Some people may rather do that. And
I don't care.
both ways are correct, and what we want you to do is, you know what, do not let people piggyback in, because once you do, they're inside the building. And so everyone can be potentially at risk once they're in the building.
And if I'm in an elevator and somebody gets in, I don't want to be in the elevator, honey, I'm getting off the elevator.
That's right.
I'm not worried about insulting somebody. I'm worried about taking care of me. You know, and like I said, sometimes it's really good, you know, you pull out the phone and go, oh, you know, and just pretend you're on a call, and that gives you an excuse to get off the elevator or whatever, but I travel too much. If I'm not comfortable, I do something about it.
And seeing whether or not your cell phone works on the elevators, you know what, call someone. Have them on the phone with you.
Janet, I'm sorry.
I just wanted to remind everybody that, that the man who committed the crime in this building, which brought us all here tonight, the alleged crime, excuse me, that's being accused, he brought somebody to his apartment. He did not try to harm somebody in this building. And I think that's a really important, while it may not be as important to some people, but he has not, to anyone's knowledge, except now that people know that, who he is, or what he's done, or what he's alleged of doing. He brought somebody here for the purposes of doing something in his own life, in his own space. And I think as a community, while we need to be very alert, and but that maybe this has been the catalyst to make us all that much more aware, and even for the things that the lady over there was saying about, you know, the expectations again of the staff. The reality is that they're not security, whether they're walking the halls or not. And the reality is also that the management company needs to be told our concerns, and at the same time, possibly, like you said, you do the walkthroughs, and at the same time, you know, even though the current manager has been the manager in other buildings for a long time, and in the hotel business, maybe it's not such a bad idea that somebody, if maybe the police department has a video that can help to teach people who are the staff some of the characteristics to recognize on the cameras, you know, that might be an alert that somebody needs to go meet that person when they're wandering around the garage, or, you know, something like that. Because even as far as stealing cars, which I'm not sure that's happened, but the bottom line is people, in quotes, aren't supposed to get in, but it doesn't take anything to get out. And we have a valet at the restaurant next door that leaves that door open all the time. And one or another cars are coming in and out, or sometimes their restaurant people just come in the garage and park themselves. So we don't, you know, the building is not immune. And that's not necessarily the people who are taking advantage of the building for crimes or just visiting or decide to do something once they're here. It's just the nature of this building we live in. And we gotta like get a grip. And I just think, thank you so much.
Thank you very much for sharing that.
Now, Anastasia, did you have a question that you emailed?
Oh, yes, I did. I have a question about building management. I believe, like specifically brainwashed by building management that the police has no jurisdiction on the building because it's a private property. I tried to call police for insurance purposes. My car was damaged, and that's like you, as a police officer, you're encouraging, right?
Right.
People to call the police if we believe we see something suspicious.
Right.
Well, the building management does absolute opposite thing. They discourage, at least in my particular case, I was absolutely discouraged not to call the police at all. So how do you deal with the building management in this situation?
What do you do?
You call the police. Well, I did eventually call.
Yeah, you ignore what they say and you do what you want.
That's what I did. Eventually they tried to brainwash me. Unsuccessfully. I eventually called the police and I showed up at the office with the police officer behind me. Yes, that was the case. But they did everything possible to discourage me to call the police.
So we've heard tonight that you can't call the police yourself. So you call the police and report any issues or concerns that you want to report to the police. And part of, if we do some type of training or walkthrough with the management and the board and things like that, those are things that we can discuss if there are any issues or concerns any issues or concerns you all may have as far as their security related or things like that. Let your board know so that they can bring it to the management, and then if we meet and do this walkthrough or training, those are things that we can discuss and bring up.
How about 2 more questions, and then we can let Officer Stroman go back to what she's supposed to be doing, which is, I guess this is what she's...
This is what I'm supposed to be
This
doing.
young lady has a question.
Yes.
So, for our own safety, is it okay to carry any of the sprays, for example, pepper spray or anything? Is it okay to carry?
Well, you know, I always say you have to be very careful with things like that, because, and I will tell you, when you use anything like pepper spray, mace, things like that, it doesn't work on everyone, okay? So you don't know whether it's going to impact that person, or is it going to escalate them and make them angrier because you're spraying something at them. And, well, you have to know when you use those type of devices that where is the wind blowing, which direction? It can come back on you and incapacitate you. I will tell you a true story. I was a patrol officer. I had a guy, he wouldn't come out of a closet, and I was like, come out, come out, come out, come out, many years ago. They're like, come out, where is he in this closet somewhere? Came up with a great idea to spray my pepper spray. It all came back on me. Well, he did get some of it. He was impacted. But I will tell you, him and I were in that room going, and we weren't paying much attention to either one of us. So it could incapacitate you. So, do you want to put yourself at risk for that?
So we should get our own tasers?
That's not what I'm recommending either. No. Be our eyes and our ears. And listen to your instincts.
Exactly.
If something doesn't look right, I can't tell you how many times after something happened, people go, you know what, I just had this feeling. That person made me feel uneasy. Or, the other side to this is, I was on my cell phone, so I wasn't paying attention. And then I didn't realize until it was too late that I was being targeted. So, just, you know what, practice good safety strategies. When you're out and about, if you're out alone, look around. See who's out there. See who's looking at you. Because the criminals are out there, they're doing their work. They're paying attention. See who's looking. They make you feel uncomfortable. Cross the street. Go somewhere where there are other people in well-lit areas. Call the police. Report it. I've got a suspicious person. Not sure what they're doing, but you know what? They seem suspicious. They're doing this. Articulate. Communicate with the dispatcher on what's going on. And that way, we're all playing a role and not relying on someone else for our own safety. So just remember, you know what? Like I say, crime rate is very, usually very low in this area. But crime happens everywhere. Criminals live everywhere. Law-abiding citizens live everywhere. And they do travel. And you all are kind of right here in a unique situation because you're right on that jurisdiction line. And there are some things that if someone commits a crime and runs across the DC line, we can't chase them. The bad guys know that. And so, you know what? Being aware, especially as you're coming and going, I think it's just so important. And letting the police know. And as we walk through, I think with some of the ideas we have expressed tonight, as far as doing the safety walk, as far as maybe doing some training, even if they are courtesy employees, just awareness about, you know what, being here, living in, I'm one of the brochures over there was like living in an apartment, condo, but we give you some safety strategies and what they should be looking for as well. So just having these conversations, I think, will be helpful. Looking at enhancing the security, see what's working, what's not. And then, you know what, we can come back together. Don't let it be because something else has happened that we're having the conversation. This is the start of a relationship here. You should be inviting the police to come out. If you all have any type of community events or anything, programs here that we can participate in, bring us out. And you'll get that police car right out front.
Yeah. In the fire zone.
That's right. But we'll be there.
Well, I want to thank Officer Stroman, as David Churchill, who was videotaping this. And it will be up on the website through the listserv. I'll tell you where it is. I'll also give out the information that Officer Stroman mentioned, the links, and any other information that she had mentioned. If I don't, remind me of something. I'll give you as much as I can remember, and if I forget somebody, that's okay. You know, everybody's here. But if I had forgotten something and you want Officer Stroman to answer it, contact me and I will forward any questions to her and ask for the information. And again, this has been an incredibly helpful presentation, and I really appreciate you coming and answering the questions, and I know that I feel a lot safer now. You know, and I know that it's my responsibility to make sure that I feel safe. And by going to the website and by engaging with the staff and the other members of our community, I also want to say that Officer Stroman will probably be doing a presentation, another presentation for the entire village, which I will be arranging for the entire village at the Village Center. So if you still have more questions, you can probably go there when she has that. But again, we are so grateful that you took time to come here tonight. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me here tonight. And I think, you know what, I'd like to say thank you to Heidi for coordinating this and taking the initiative to take the time out to coordinate this and bring this all together. Every community needs a Heidi, so you all are very fortunate to have her, and I tell you, she really put a lot of effort into this and was very passionate about it, making this happen. So you are very fortunate, and I know there's a lot of residents here that can participate and do participate in making sure that things run well here. But again, if I can ever be of assistance, please just let me know. I'm at the 2nd District Station, and Heidi has all of my contact information as well. So I look forward to seeing you all again. Thank you very much.
Thank you.